Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Fist Puncher? Self-explanatory, really. It's a brawler. Already by looking at it, you can say, hey, it's another retro-style game, because we definitely don't have enough of them, right? Yes, it's by a team called 2-Bit, and they have made an 8-bit style brawler. Very much based on River City Ransom. Also, definitely not the only game to be based on River City Ransom. Quite a few of those have already occurred. But it is a brawler in the expected style. But it's got a couple of things thrown in for good measure, so we'll have a look at it. In the meantime, we'll have a quick look at the options menu. This is all controlled by the keyboard, by the way, so no mouse control on any of the menus, which usually if it's just an options menu, that would be fine, but they also have a skill menu with a bunch of stats that you can assign, and the lack of mouse control is actually really annoying. So that kind of sucks. We've got the options menu. You'll see full screen off or on. There are no resolution options, which means this thing is permanently locked at 720p. 1920 by 1080. 1280 by 720, which is pretty irritating. So I'm playing in a little window right now. You can change difficulty level. You can also put friendly fire on or off, and that is really about it. And you have like 4 presets for any of the volumes. So the options menu is pretty damn lackluster. You have keyboard setup, which ends up being annoying as hell as well, because again, you don't have mouse control, so you can't actually select different keys to change. You've got to go and basically do the whole lot. I've just randomly set my special attack to end there, because I pressed the wrong bloody button. So I'm gonna put it S. No, it's stuck on end. Why is it stuck on end? Oh, good lord. It's a crappy menu. I mean, there's no real question about that. Let's reset it. That's not working either. Great. Okay. Why is D? No, we can... There! Right, finally, it's S. I don't know what the hell was going on there. Okay, let's not mess with that. Clearly, it's being a bit of a pain in the ass. Alright, continuing campaign. So, let's get into it and show you exactly what's going on with Fist Puncher. So, there are 4 characters, including a sexy beekeeper. I am playing the sexy beekeeper. The game has some nice misogynistic themes in it, and I say nice very much in the joking manner, but it is based on River City Ransom, so that kind of thing is expected. It's rescue the damsels. Admittedly, a lot of the people doing the rescuing are, of course, the damsels as well, so it's a kind of dirty looking and feeling game, which is sort of to be expected, I suppose, from something that's trying to ape something like Double Dragon or River City Ransom. I wouldn't say it's trying to ape Streets of Rage, because I think that would kind of be an insult to Streets of Rage. Alright, let's get into the level, shall we, and show you what's going on. You get these nice little cards and pieces of art that pop in. There's even an Adult Swim-themed one, since 2-Bit is actually being published by Adult Swim, whereby the robot unicorn is in there. I think he was available as a pre-order fighter or something like that. There we go. Each of the different characters does have their own perk menu, as well as the ability to upgrade stats. 5 different stats, one of which is specific to the character in question. Alright. There we go. Now, looking at it initially, what you can very clearly see is the game is hideous. It's always hard to say that, because I know they were deliberately trying to make it this way, but that doesn't mean the game doesn't look hideous. It's like, well, we're going to make a retro-style game. Yeah, okay, I get that. But the retro-style graphics do not enhance the game in any way. All it says to me is like, hey, look at how much of a homage we are. It's like, well, no. Not really. I mean, all that says to me is, hey, we just flat out don't have the artistic skill to make anything else. And that's something a lot of people have been saying up to this point, and I've kind of been defending a lot of these retro games, but some of them just really don't have a lot of charm to them. And I think that's perhaps the most important thing about it. Does the game actually have that retro charm in terms of its graphic style? And in some cases, yes, it does. A good example of that would be not an 8-bit style game, but based around kind of an old-school 90s PC title, Sword of the Stars, The Pit. That had charm. Yeah? It had nice, clean sprites, it had a good use of color, and it really reminded me of games like XCOM, Terror from the Deep, and stuff like that. This game, though, I don't find the graphic style charming whatsoever. I really, really don't. Maybe it's just because I've overdosed on retro-style games lately, and I certainly wouldn't be the only one to, by the sounds of it, but I don't find it particularly charming at all. What I'm also kind of disappointed by is the fact that there's no really awesome chiptunes in the background. It's one of the things that these kind of games seem to bring up and say, hey, you know, we got some chiptunes, it'll be fine. Yeah, that's where the charm comes from. But, no, in this case, it doesn't really have any of that. Do I have to beat up this guy's kid? Because that's a little bit grim, isn't it? There we go, let's steal the pineapple. Now, the fighting system is a very basic brawler fighting system, but it's also extremely floaty. Like, it's actually a lot faster than I would have expected, and you might think that that's good, but I personally don't think that's particularly good at all, because it means you've got these really floaty attacks. Like, specifically landing a jump kick, for instance, is rather difficult. It seems to go almost in a random direction, which is not particularly impressive at all. Definitely not a fan of that. And these boss fights, more often than not, don't have that many tells. And when they do, it's a case of sort of running at them, punching them a couple of times, running away, running at them, punching them a couple of times, so on and so forth. There's none of the slower-paced, more ploddy, deliberate brawler style that you'll find in a game like, say, Streets of Rage here. It's hard to describe exactly how the game feels without saying, oh yeah, it's spammy. It feels spammy. That doesn't really even mean anything. But I think that you get what I'm talking about when I say a game feels like it's spammy. It's like, what moves you use don't really seem to matter all that much. It's more of a case of just kind of run around and mash the buttons and stuff will end up dying, whereas in a game like Streets of Rage, that's actually not the case. You couldn't get away with that. You really, really couldn't. You had to be very careful. And the fighting was very deliberate. It was a little bit more slower paced. It also had a lot more impact to it. This game doesn't really have any of that. None of the attacks feel like they've got any real impact or substance to them, which is extremely unfortunate. Oh god, seriously? There's a couple of items. There we go, I can actually pick it up. There's some health items that had dropped to the bottom of the screen. I couldn't actually grab them. No, I still think I can't actually grab them. Also, this is annoying as hell. There's repeated stun locking going on here. The game is actually extremely frustrating on a wide variety of different levels. There's one level where you're driving a motorcycle, and it's just like a kind of a 2 or 3 minute level, and you die in like 3 hits, and stuff comes at you from the side of the screen so fast that you've only got a fraction of a second to react, and in some cases it looks like something's going to miss you and it ends up hitting you anyway, and in some other cases it looks like something's about to hit you and it ends up missing you. Like there's a couple of pixels of space whereby it's going to hit you and a couple of pixels where it's not. And overall, the game is just annoying for the most part. That level only goes on for a couple of minutes, and I do appreciate the attempt at variety, but it's astonishingly frustrating. And a lot of these boss fights are as well. And most of the reason for that is that the game has a stats system and very much encourages you to keep retrying levels until you actually have enough stats to properly beat it. The first boss that I came up against killed me so fast that I had to have a couple more attempts so I could actually upgrade my health and get a couple more moves and things like that before I was really capable of reliably beating him. And it wasn't really a case of, oh yeah, I can dodge and block absolutely everything. I mean, blocking the enemies don't really seem to do all that much at all, unless it's a basic enemy. And in which case, you might as well just jump around hitting the fly kick button over and over again against basic enemies, because it seems to work better. There doesn't seem to be a specific strategy to each of these bosses, and if there is, I'm really kind of missing it. And I think it just is down to how ridiculously floaty the combat is. You can't really plan any kind of strategy against the boss, and you can't deliberately use a certain set of moves because everything moves so damn quickly, and the attacks are so floaty that it's hard to reliably land them. What that actually results in is a game that I would describe as one gigantic 8-bit ball of frustration. I can see what they're trying to do. And I played a lot of brawlers back in the day. It was one of my favorite genres. It really, really was. I absolutely loved brawlers. Really, really do. And I appreciate them now as well, an awful lot. And they were challenging. No real question about that. And a lot of them were unfair at times. But, you know, once you learned it, you end up having a ton of fun with it. And really, those games were less unfair than they initially appeared. This game just seems to throw unfairness at you for the sake of it. And also lets you go into levels that your character very clearly isn't prepared to deal with. There we go. Now you can see here there's a kind of rage system, but the game, annoyingly enough, has a tendency of spawning the same letter over and over again. You spell rage, and you go into a rage, you do extra damage, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, it seems random as to what letters pop out. Oh, god damn it. And you will lose over and over and over again. And thankfully, you do gain experience, so you can actually level up and get some more stuff there. So if I do want to do that, then I can. Let's say if I want to increase my strength, I probably just want to increase my defense at this point. I just don't want to take as much damage. So I can assign that, and then that you can pick a perk every now and again as well. You see, I've got HP boost. If I do a 25-hit combo, I'll end up getting a restore, and so on and so forth. So I've got those upgrades, and then I can try again and go right back into it. But I don't find this game particularly enjoyable at all. I mean, it's trying to be gimmicky at times. I think Jesse Cox and Dodger are actually in the game throwing dogs at people, lelelel, so random, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's a little bit too much Purple Monkey Dishwasher in this game, and the references don't carry it, I'm afraid. I don't find the game pleasant to look at in any way, and it's like, oh, well, that was on purpose. Yeah, but why? It's not like we don't have retro-style brawlers. We actually have quite a few of them. This is not a genre that we are missing a huge amount of. This is coming out in the same week as a remake of a classic HD brawler by the name of Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara. And then you've got all sorts of things like Castle Crashers and a wide variety of other 2D brawler-style games that end up just playing better and looking better than this. And they don't have to rely on the excuse of, oh, it's retro style. Who wants to look at these 8-bit graphics? I mean, really now, they don't even have any charm to them. It's not like you're playing Castlevania or the original Mario games. You're just playing an ugly brawler. And I think it's at that point that you have to say to people, oh, right, well, you know what? Actually, it seems like there really isn't much value in creating a game that looks like this, when all it really is a case of, oh yeah, look at how retro we are. No, that's not... That doesn't carry your game. That should not be carrying your game. That should not be what you should be saying to people. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? We're just going to make a game that looks retro. I get it. You know, graphical talent is tricky. You know, artistic talent is a tricky thing to get. If you want to make something high fidelity, it generally costs a lot of money because you need the people to do it. I get that. I really do. But they haven't succeeded in making a game that I personally want to look at. It's an eyesore for the most part. And if the brawling was really, really solid, I'd probably let them get away with that. Because, you know, hey, graphics are not that important. But it's not. It really, really isn't. There's some cute moves here and there, and I like the fact that each of the characters actually has a significant move variety. But most of the time, it doesn't even seem to matter what move you actually use. And a lot of these boss fights are just infuriating. Trying to hit this guy's kids so I can get some rage points or whatever. God. And if I go close to him, I end up getting tased, and I've actually been tased twice in a row multiple times as soon as I've got up, which is very annoying indeed. And it seems to be more of a case of just run around, occasionally fly kick, use my ranged attack, and hope for the best. No, I don't want that. I don't want 8-bit frustration. I've had enough of that. If I wanted 8-bit frustration, I'd fire up an emulator or Wii Virtual Console. That's not okay. That's not cool. What I want is an enjoyable brawler. This is not it. As much as I would like to say that it is. It's obvious what they're trying to do. The River City Rampage homage, little bits of parody here and there, but it doesn't add value to the experience. And the actual gameplay is really not that fun. If it had real online co-op rather than just local, I'd probably say, hey, you know what? It's alright. I can deal with the frustration because I'm dealing with it with friends. And I'm hopefully eventually going to actually beat this boss. Thankfully, it does seem he's a little bit vulnerable to ranged attacks from time to time, so I kind of just keep picking at him. As irritating as it is, and just kind of jumping around like a blinking lunatic. But I haven't really come across a level that I've found particularly enjoyable. The brawling gets better when there's a lot of enemies on the screen, especially if you get a weapon drop, and then you can just kind of swing away at them, and it's alright, but it really is like playing a worse version of Double Dragon. And it's like, why don't I just play Double Dragon? Why don't I just play the Streets of Rage remake that you can find on pretty much every torrent site? Oh, sorry, Sega, was I not supposed to mention that? But whatever the case, I'm just flat out not okay with it. I don't think it's all that good. I think it's excessively gimmicky, and the actual gameplay just doesn't live up to the gimmicks. you could say, is it better than Double Dragon or River City Rampage? And you'll probably end up answering, yeah, it probably is. You know, it's got a nice selection of moves and mechanics. Occasionally it'll throw in a level like the motorbike level that does make things a little bit more interesting because it introduces a few different mechanics and it shakes things up a little bit of a different style of gameplay. But again, that level is just a big ball of frustration as well. And this overall style of, hey, I clip through the enemies and just kind of do these little pathetic punches and occasionally do funny things like this spinning bird kick or whatever that makes bees fly everywhere. Yeah, that's funny, again, in a Purple Monkey Dishwasher kind of way, but that's not enough to carry the game. It really, really is not. It's not a satisfying brawling experience. It's a damn eyesore, and the game is full of frustration. And more to the point, the game flat out encourages you to play the same level over and over again, or just avoid certain levels until you've leveled up. This is not an RPG, yeah? I would prefer a more linear experience that is properly balanced and well-scaled. And again, what's the point in having all of these moves when you can just beat them with the same move over and over again? Really, just doing a jump kick and then just spamming attack seems to be the most effective way of clearing out pretty much anything. Then when you've got a full bar, use one of your specials, of which you have several. And blocking isn't even something that I've used because it doesn't work on the bosses, so what's the point? You might as well just walk around, punch them, and then run away, and then pick up some health items, hit your bloody special again, and go for it. And I haven't even taken any hits this level. And what a crazy difficulty spike we had on the level in the park there. I think from watching it, you probably figured out if this is your kind of thing. If you're up for a little bit of nostalgia, I suppose, then the game does kind of provide that in spades. But it doesn't benefit from being a game that was released in 2013. And I think if you're going to make a retro-inspired game, you have to do that. And no, perk unlocks and little achievement cards that you get, they don't count. I'm sorry, they don't. They flat out do not count. That is not enough to say, hey, yeah, you know, we totally took advantage of the advances in technology. No, this game could have been made 20 years ago, and more to the point, it could have been made better, I think. So, no, I'm afraid I do not buy into the charm of Fist Puncher. As hilarious as it is. Like, hey, we made a game called Fist Puncher, isn't that funny? No. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. There's a few too many of these retro-style games just floating around the place these days, and I absolutely hate turning around and saying to a small indie studio, you know what, I don't think your game's very good, but I don't think your game's very good. I'm sorry. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Take a look at Fist Puncher. It's currently available on Steam for $10 or your regional equivalent. Bear in mind that the co-op is local only, so if you do intend to purchase it to play with friends, then make sure you are around the same machine. Otherwise, you will not be getting very far. My name has been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.